Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make Magic Meta mad. Now, this is the same blue Tron list that I played before, whenever that most recently was, except I dropped Academy Ruins for a basic island. One of my big complaints was there weren't quite enough islands in this deck. Not quite enough blue sources, anyway. And we're not playing the Mindslaver lock, and Academy Ruins is generally very narrow in blue Tron if you're not doing that. Like, it had some value recycling an expedition map to continue getting lands, or like repeatedly buying back Wormcoil Engine or Walking Ballista or something like that, but I really think the majority of the time we're not going to need it, and I would rather have the other utility lands as well as an extra island. So yeah, let's try this out in the new metagame, see how that works. See you guys in round one. Alrighty, round one, here we go. Got some good sleep last night for the first night. It's the night before I only slept for like 5 hours, and Porter woke me up like twice. Last night, Porter only got me up once, and I slept from, how long would that be? Almost 9 hours, I think? It's quite a lot. Okay, so I'm going to play Gemstone Caverns and exile Talaria West here. I mean, it's very unlikely that I can repeal or condescend anything on 1 mana, but starting on 2 mana, I'm going to start Scalding Tarn, crack Scalding Tarn for basic mountain into a Soulscar Mage. Alright, we untap. We draw a Power Plant. Play Power Plant, and honestly, I just kind of want to repeal this because it doesn't have haste. So we're going to pass and see whether or not condescend or repeal is a better opportunity. It doesn't have to happen on our turn. I mean, worst case scenario is my opponent, okay, that I will condescend. I was gonna say, worst case scenario is my opponent has like an island and a Spell Pierce or something like that in the main deck. Okay, Karn, Great Creator on top, Urza's Tower on top of Karn. Opponent plays a Fiery Islet into an Opt. So Soulscar Mage gonna hit us for 2 here. We're gonna have to take a little bit of time off of assembling Tron, even though I could technically get it as early as the turn after next, because I would like to draw Karn. So, draw Urza's Tower, play Urza's Tower, play Expedition Map, pass the turn. Now we have Repeal or Condescend, whichever one is more damaging to what our opponent wants to do. Okay, they opt, pumping Soulscar. I think I would Condescend if they like Manamorphosed into a Stormwing entity, and otherwise I would Repeal. Okay. So, Condescend, Blast Zone to the bottom, Karn on top. Opponent gets in for 2. We untap, draw Karn. I can wish for a 1-drop. I actually think I'm going to wait. It's a little bit awkward, but we're going to fetch up Urza's Mine. Alright, play Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. We play a second Soulscar Mage. Then they play a Sprite Dragon. Alright, they go to combat. We will repeal the more expensive threat. Get an Expedition Map. Take 1, go to 15, untap. Draw Talisman of Dominance. So we currently have 8 mana. I think we're going to wish for Ensnaring Bridge. So the way that we're going to do this is play map, crack map for tower. Actually, Ensnaring Bridge probably isn't going to be the best, because we can't completely empty our hand. I mean, I could just get a Wormcoil Engine or something like that. My opponent might have a tough time dealing with that. I could get Blast Zone. Let me just Blast Zone the 1-drops. Yeah, I kind of like that. So play Blast Zone, play Talisman, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent Lava Darts us. Then they're going to play a Stormwing entity. Alright. So, crack Blast Zone. They could only have a land or a 1-drop after this, because one of the cards in their hand is Sprite Dragon. So we should be able to get Ensnaring Bridge pretty well uncontested, unless my opponent is main decking a Braid. I mean, we will be at 10. I could also wish for a Worm Coil Engine, but Karn would die at that point. Draw an island. Play an island. Play Karn. Wish. Yeah, 6 mana. We'll get Ensnaring Bridge. Play it. They can attack Karn for 1. That's fine. We're probably going to try and drag this out into the long game, which means I'll be wishing probably for a Walking Ballista. Okay, opponent plays a Monastery Swiftspear. They can attack Karn and flashback Lava Dart targeting Karn to kill him. Okay, they attack us. This probably means they have light up the stage. Okay, we get Lava Darted. Take 2. Okay, opponent lights up the stage. Gut Shot and Lava Dart. Not, I think, what my opponent was hoping to get. We draw Chalice, which is actually pretty nice. So let's go ahead and wish. Walking Ballista is probably the best way to win the game, just given our current position. So I'm going to take Walking Ballista. Play an island. Play Chalice X1. My opponent Lava Darts us. And scoops. Alright. Technically, Aether Gust or Spatial Contortion could be more removal here. It might be better than Remand. I'll cut 1 Remand for Dismember. I don't like the life loss on Dismember, but it's still probably one of our better options here. We need something that's able to answer a Stormwing entity, which Repeal is most likely not going to be able to do. Alright. This looks like a fairly decent hand. We will keep. We will start Tower Map into Island, hold up Condescend / Activate Map, and basically repeat that for a few turns. So my opponent starts Scalding Tarn, cracks Scalding Tarn, gets a basic mountain into a Soulscar Mage. We untap. They did mulligan, because they are down to 5 total cards, so we are probably at a very high advantage here. Worst case scenario is my opponent Manamorphoses into a Stormwing entity. Okay, there's Manamorphose. Yep. So all this means is I have to use Dismember this turn. So I can just use my extra mana to play out a second Expedition map, but that's not how I would have preferred this to go. This is a situation where if we had been on the play, we would have absolutely destroyed our opponent. Okay, they're going to hit us for 2, take us to 18. Let me see how they scried. Oops, show game log. They put 1 card on top and 1 card on the bottom. We can't interrupt their draw, but sometimes it's useful to know whether or not your opponent is going to be drawing something very good or not. So play an island, play Expedition Map, and odds are with a single Prowess trigger we're going to take 4 off of Stormwing Entity, so it's kind of like hitting us once and killing it. Okay, opponent plays a Spire Bluff Canal into a Soulscar Mage. They're probably going to crack Fiery Islet for a draw. Alright. And they light up the stage. Into a Scalding Tarn and a Lava Dart. Alright, we untap. We draw Cyclonic Rift. So the problem now is we want to be cracking these maps because we want to be playing Tron lands. The problem is, if we crack map and play a Tron land, we can't do anything else. And then we drastically limit ourselves on mana the next turn. I think we have to play Talaria West and probably Cyclonic Rift. I mean, we could potentially get a good Condescend, but that's unlikely given our opponent's amount of mana and our amount of mana. So they play a Scalding Tarn, they crack Scalding Tarn, they get a Mountain, they go to combat, they attack for 2, they they Lava Dart. I don't know why I said Condescend. Wasn't even looking at it. So we take 1, and then they Lightning Bolt. So we're going to be going down to 6 here. And they sack Fiery Islet for a draw. Okay. Well, that was unexpected, but they're trying to kill us right now. So we have to Cyclonic Rift to stay alive. We untap. We draw a Talisman of Dominance. I don't think a single force spike is going to be enough, but I do have to try. We'll get power plant. Play power plant. Pass the turn. So opponent cracks Arid Mesa. Burst lightning. Yep, can't do anything about that. Alright. I think we stay set up as we are and run it back. Alright, we'll play first. I mean, I wish we'd had the ability to go second, but we do technically have a blue source on turn 2 when it matters, so. Play Talaria West, pass the turn. Opponent plays an Arid Mesa. Cracks it for a mountain, and Swift Spear. Hits us for 1. We untap. We draw another power plant. I would like the other Tron lands deck, please. Pass turn, leaving Repeal Condescend up. Opponent untaps. Plays a Spire Bluff Canal. I think if they cast Manamorphose, I will actually counter it. Well, no, I guess it would still be correct to counter the Stormwing entity. We would just take 1 extra point of damage, I guess. Alright, Manamorphose. Because the alternative would be repealing here, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Sprite Dragon. Alright, I will counter a Sprite Dragon. We have a Thought Knot Seer and another Condescend. Thought Knot Seer is not going to come down for a while. I think the counter spell is better. That was probably a mistake, but I guess I'll find out. Next turn we have Repeal or Condescend and Dismember if we need it. We just need to buy some time, really. Alright, opponent untaps. They play a Fiery Islet. They are going to surgically extract Condescend. Okay, well, we lose this Condescend that we worked for. Now I wish I had kept the, what do you call it? Thought Knot Seer. Opponent does get to see our hand. So we'll probably be repealing this Monastery Swift Spear during combat. We have Dismember for, I guess, anything else more threatening or larger mana cost. Okay. Opponent plays a Stormwing entity, goes scrying. 1 card on the bottom and 1 card on top. They go to combat. They attack us for 2. Let's go ahead and repeal. They Spell Pierce the repeal. Okay. So we don't get a draw. Which means we're actually taking like 7 this turn. We have a lot more ways to answer low CMC permanents simply because of Blast Zone and Repeal. So we need to answer the Stormwing entity there. We go down to 10. Untap. Draw Chalice. Okay. Play Power Plant. Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. I mean, Monastery Swift Spear having prowess is still an issue. But they attack us for 2. Could be 4. It is 4. Well, I'm really hoping that I draw a Blast Zone off the top of my deck. Or, I guess anything, really. Tower is not what I asked for, but I will play it. Yeah, I guess putting back that Thought Knot was wrong. They attack us for 3. We take 3 and go to 3. We untap. We draw Karn. Karn can let us get a 2-drop, so we could play a Walking Ballista and then chump the Swift Spear and just die if they can cast a single spell. That does not inspire confidence, but... Play Karn. It really is only Ballista, isn't it? Alright. We wish. We will use his ability. Get Walking Ballista. Play Ballista. Pass the turn. If we can somehow survive till next turn, we can wish for Ensnaring Bridge and everything should be fine. Okay. Opponent has a spell, so we lose. That's unfortunate. But I think I misplayed in that final round there, or final game there, so I will see you all in round 2. Alrighty. Round 2, here we go. I would like to play first. I mean, it's Tron, but I guess we hope to top deck a blue source, or we have to map for a blue source, and I'm not thrilled about that. Now, if we can draw a Karn or a big Tron threat, that'd be great, but we're blue Tron, so the odds of actually doing that is pretty low. Opponent starts Wooded Foothills, passes, we untap and draw Thought Knot Seer. Alright, so I guess it's Tron after all. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills, gets a Blood Crypt untapped, so it's probably some form of Death Shadow. They untap. Cycle Street Wraith. I wonder what got them off of Luris tech. Like, I mean, I know it's so that they can run things like Street Wraith, but I wonder what literally made them make the call. So let's go ahead and get an Urza's Tower. Tarmogoyf resolves. We untap. Draw Prismatic Vista. Play Urza's Tower. Play Thought Knot Seer. Take a look at what's going on over there. Opponent's got Temur Battle Rage, Luris in the main deck, which makes a little more sense to me. They have Lightning Bolt. I guess I should take Battle Rage, but I'm probably not blocking, at least for a little bit. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent probably thinks I'm on Eldrazi Tron. The Inquisition. They see I am not Eldrazi Tron. I could have taken Inquisition from them to hide actually what deck I was playing, but I think the Temur Battle Rage was a bigger threat because it represents so much damage whenever it gets cast. It would also let them swing past Thought Knot Seer. So if we block and they bolt... Okay, never mind, we're not blocking anymore. But it plays a Forest. They go to combat, get in for 5. We don't block. We won't be able to Snapcaster Mage for anything because we only have 1 blue source on our next turn, but opponent's going to play Death Shadow. We untap. We draw an Urza's Mine. Play Prismatic Vista. Fetch up an island. And then we just pass, really. We can't attack into this. Because if we connect, we actually are going to, like, die on the backswing. I wonder if they're playing Scourge of the Skyclaves anymore. Or if it was just, like, too unreliable. It's weird to see how decks like this shift during the metagame. Like, what becomes no longer necessary. It could also be a person who quit Modern for the duration of, like, the Uro crap, and then just rejoined playing their exact same deck. Because that happens sometimes. And it's not often, like, that bad of a strategy, really. Opponent is going to bolt themselves, so we know they're holding Luris to Unknowns. I actually want to counter this bolt. Because I don't want them attacking with Shadow. Tolari West on the bottom, Ugin on top. Okay, opponent traverses the Ulvenwald. Gets a Bloodstained Mire. Plays Bloodstained Mire. Goes to combat and attacks. Block Death Shadow. So opponent can fetch and shock to trade. I guess I actually should have let that damage through because we're going to play Ugin and just wipe the board anyway. Oh, opponent has Temur Battle Rage, so we're going to take the same amount of damage. I guess that actually meant I had to block or I was going to be dead. Because I'm going to less than 4. Okay. So, players is mine. Play Ugin. We gotta hope to dodge Bolt. -2 Ugin. Then play Snapcaster Mage. Wow, even at 3 life, my opponent concedes. You're running Lightning Bolt, dude. See what you top deck. Okay. Versus their deck, we don't really want Dismember or Spatial Contortion. Aether Gust technically is better than Remand. Spreading Seas might also be. I'll cut 1 Remand for Spreading Seas just so we can see, because I'm not actually sure which is better. I will say that after having cut the Academy Ruins, that we have what feels like a reasonable number of blue sources. Now, it feels like I'm drawing the right amount of blue mana. So it really is just a 1 land difference. If, I mean, I could have just been getting unlucky, sure, but, and this might just be results-oriented thinking, but I highly recommend that you can play different lands if you have personal preferences on what lands you should be playing. Yeah, we need a different hand than that. This works, though. I will keep this. I will put back River of Tears, because that card ends up being the bane of my existence. Play Gemstone Caverns, and I'm going to exile Walking Ballista. But what I'm saying is you should be playing the same number of utility lands, the same number of Tron lands, the same number of islands that I'm playing right now. What if you have individual preferences, like instead of playing Field of Ruin, you want to play Ghost Quarter, instead of playing Eldrazi Temple, you want to play Scavenger Grounds because you're in like a Dredge heavy meta or something like that, that's fine. Opponent Thought seizes us, takes Condescend, which is pretty backbreaking because we're really low on cards. It's basically going to be up to whether or not we draw action spells now. We'll be at 4 mana on turn 2, which is pretty great, because if we top deck a Thought Knot Seer or a Karn, we can start doing some pretty nasty things to our opponent's mana base or hand. We get Inquisition, they take nothing. They shock Overgrown Tomb and Traverse. They get a Forest because they didn't have Delirium. We untap, draw Nurse's Mine, play a Nurse's Mine, pass the turn. A little bit of a calculated risk to let them know what we draw, because they could have tried to fire off another hand hate spell if that's all they've got, but they traverse, finding another basic because they don't have anything else. Play an island, and oof. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to play out explosives on one. Pass the turn. Waiting might actually be better, especially because we do have a Gemstone Caverns and a Talisman. But, like, if my opponent plays a Goyf, that could spell really bad news for us. Okay, finally they traverse for an actual creature. And they should probably pick Tarmogoyf. Luris of the Dream Den. Okay. So they're going to start replaying Bauble to get an extra draw every turn. We untap, they draw a card. Tron assembled. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Bauble. They untap, they draw a card. Now, we would basically be fine drawing any spell in our deck. Most of them draw cards. The rest of them are threats. We don't want to draw any more lands if we can avoid it, but there's no guarantee we can avoid it. Opponent cracks Bauble. Plays a Verdant Catacombs. Cracks Verdant Catacombs. Shocks a Blood Crypt. Big spell. Street Wraith. It's the unlikeliest of Death Shadow threats, but it still exists. Also, Luris has lifelink. Okay, we untap. They draw a card. We draw. Remand. Play wastes. Pass the turn. Well, what I said was true. Most of our spells draw cards. I will remand Thoughtseize because there's a good chance we actually draw land. Okay. I am sad because I won't be able to cast the Sundering Titan, which would have been very good versus my opponent. Opponent plays Bauble. Cracks Bauble. They play a Death Shadow. We take 6. Okay, we untap. They draw a card. We draw. Wormcoil Engine. So, play Wormcoil Engine. Pass the turn. Put it as Assassin's Trophy. Well, that sucks. Get an island. No big life gain for us. Alright, opponent untaps. Plays a Wooded Foothills. Goes to combat. Attacks, attacks. Okay, block with the Death Touch, and block with the lifelink. Okay, opponent fetches. Shocks. And we'll crack Engineered Explosives. We kill the Street Wraith. Opponent replays Bauble, cracks Bauble. Into a new Death Shadow. Okay. We untap, they draw. Only mana forever. Oh, man. I mean, we have a lot of cards in our deck that aren't lands. We have a number of lands, because we play like 24 of them or something like that. It might even be as high as 26. But the rest of our cards draw cards. So, like, we shouldn't be in a situation like this pretty much ever. And the fact that we mulliganed and then got Thought Seized is basically what did it. Because, look at it, it's turn 8 right now. That's plenty of time for any deck to win the game. And the fact that our opponent has not been able to close this out through all of the stuff that we haven't done, basically. Okay, I'm going to block, but I suspect a Teamer Battle Rage. Alright, we gain 3 life. One of the big things is my opponent kept a hand that was all, like, hand hate, cantrips, and lands. Gore Clan Rampager. Alright. I got a big Blood Rush spell, basically. And they have a Damping Sphere? How rude. Talaria West, we cannot get Walking Ballista because we exiled it to Gemstone Caverns. I will still transmute it to see what my options are, though I know that there's very few options. I mean, I can get Blast Zone. Tormod's Crypt doesn't do anything now. Yeah, we'll get Blast Zone. It's really our only method of interaction. And I will probably still crack it on just one. We have enough lands that Damping Sphere isn't going to matter. We're basically drawing to like an Ugin. Opponent goes to combat, they attack for 11. They're going to Temur Battle Rage the Gore Clan Rampager, which means we do in fact have to sack this now. Killing Death Shadow. And we take 11 and go to 3. We're dead to Lightning Bolt. Okay, opponent plays Bauble and sacks it. We untap, they draw. Mono mana. Alright. Moving on to game 3. Let's try and win this quickly and not have to mulligan so much. Alright, play first. Seems reasonable, we'll keep. We're not doing anything on turn 1, so I think I'm actually going to play out Talaria West. I want my mana coming in untapped up until like turn 4 if possible. I know I'm losing out on Talaria West's transmutability, but at the same time, I also have this feeling that I really am going to need untapped mana, given the number of cards that I could draw that would require me to have 2 or 3 untapped mana. So, opponent starts Cycle Street Wraith, fetches with Verdant Catacombs, shocks a Blood Crypt into a Thoughtseize. They should take Remand, as that's our only interactive spell, unless they don't care about it in the slightest, in which case they'll take something else. Okay, we untap. We draw Chalice, which should be pretty good versus my opponent. Go ahead and throw down Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. That was an amazing top deck. That means no bolts, no Thoughtseizes, no Traverse, no Death Shadow. But Goyf is still a thing. We untap, draw Expedition Map, throw it into a Chalice out of anger. Pass to our second main phase to really make our opponent panic about the fact we didn't play a land during our first main phase. Pass the turn. Okay, now I would like to top deck any land. Hear that, deck? Land now, please. Opponent attacks us for 5. We go down to 15. We untap. We draw a Snapcaster Mage. Well, Snapcaster Mage can, in theory, buy us a turn by blocking. Opponent untaps. They go to combat. They attack for 5. Flash in Snappy. Target Remand. Then we chump. Because my opponent is unlikely to have any removal. They let this happen. Oh, they Battle Rage. That's pretty good. So we go to 6. We untap. We really desperately need a land. Opponent shocks a Stomping Grounds. We untap. Draw an Urza's Tower. Play Urza's Tower. Play Thought Knot Seer. Take a look at our opponent's hand. They have Dismember. Wow. So they get to draw. Then we get to pick a card from their hand. They have Damping Sphere, Assassin's Trophy. Wow, the fact that they have both of these cards is super bad for us. So we'll take Damping Sphere from them, implying that we need Tron mana. Basically, we have to hope to draw Power Plant and somehow stick a threat of some kind. So opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire, which is a card we know about. They attack us for 5. We go down to 1. We untap. We draw Field of Ruin. Yeah, there's nothing I can wish for on 1. Actually, yeah, no, we don't have Tormod's Crypt. I was going to say, if we had 6, I could get Relic and Empty the Graves. But we don't have Tormod's Crypt, and that actually hurts us here. So, alright, we'll scoop it up, and I will see you guys in round 3. A little bit of a disappointing showing so far, considering we've won, you know, 1 game in each of our matches, but, I mean, what can you do? Alrighty, round 3, here we go. I would like to play first. Seems like a good hand, we'll keep. Kind of a just Tron primary game plan hand on the play, so can't be that bad, I imagine. Alright, so start Power Plant, Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Opponent starts Ketria Triome. Play an Urza's Mine, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. So they could be like some kind of control deck, maybe. Let's go ahead and get an Urza's Tower. We untap, draw Prismatic Vista. Play Tower. Play Talisman. Play Thought Knot Seer with Remand backup. Nice remand, bro. This is a pretty strong line. Yeah, get that out of here. Let's take a peek and see what's going on. Lightning Bolt, remand, Renin 6. Take Renin 6. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent untaps. They play a forest. They passed. They have Lightning Bolt and remand. Well, we have a remand. So go to combat. Attack for 4. Opponent takes 4 and goes to 16. I mean, I could just go for the Thought Knot beatdown, but I also kind of want to do, like, land destruction. So play Prismatic Vista, fetch with Prismatic Vista, get an island. I could play Karn, have remand, and still have 3 mana, so play Karn. Opponent Growth Spirals. Alright, that is a card that they drew. Okay, they shock in a Steam Vents. They attempt to remand, so remand they remand. We draw River of Tears. Alright, and Karn is gonna die to Lightning Bolt, but alright, we win. Cool. So versus Renin 6 shenanigans, I think I want Aether Gust over a single remand. And that's probably all I want to change. It's possible I want Dismembers because my opponent's probably still playing Omnath, but that felt really good. I'm glad I didn't go for the just jam Karn play. Man, Tron into Talisman into Thought Knot with countermagic backup is... That's a pretty valid Tron line, it feels like. Alright, game 2, we will be on the draw. This would appear to be a fast Thought Knot, so we're going to keep. We do have Talisman of Dominance. So start Urza's Mine, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Steam Vents and shocks it in to play Renin 6. Okay. So we untap, we draw Engineered Explosives. Play Field of Ruin, play Talisman of Dominance, pass the turn. Okay, we untap. We draw Snapcaster Mage. So, play Eldrazi Temple, pass the turn. We're going to leave up Field Activation into, like, Remand, I think. Potentially Cyclonic Rift. Opponent plays Misty, cracks Misty, gets an island, picks up Misty Rainforest, and passes. So, Field of Ruin, Raugrin Triome. Okay, opponent floats white mana. Technically, I guess I should have done this during, like, combat, but... Okay. Cast Cyclonic Rift. Dovin's Veto. Okay. We untap. We draw a tower. So, play a tower. Play Thought Knot Seer. Leaving up Remand. Okay, let's take a peek at what our opponent's got. Force of Negation, Veil of Summer. Take Veil from them. Pass the turn. They're going to cycle Raugrin Triome. Okay. They untap. Pick up Raugrin Triome, sure. Play a Hallowed Fountain untapped. Blue-red Cleansing Wildfire on our tower. I could remand this and force them to recast it. But I don't think it's actually that important. We assemble Tron right now. So get an island. So opponent is leaving up Force of Negation mana. We basically would want to try and remand a, like a Path or something like that. I'm just going to play Talaria West. Go to combat. Attack Renin 6 down to 3. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent Growth Spirals. Probably putting Misty into play. They could put Raugrin Triome into play. Okay, they do. So they untap. Well, we do have Remand. Oh, we can't Remand Snapcaster Remand because we don't have an untapped land here. That's unfortunate. Cleansing Wildfire on Eldrazi Temple. Okay. Get an island. Opponent is passing, so we lose our mana. They're going to pick up Raugrin Triome. Okay. They play Misty. Then they pass. We untap. Draw Thirst for Knowledge, which will be useful. Go to combat. Opponent going to Cryptic, so we're going to try and Remand. They could have a blue card to pitch to Force here, but they don't. Then we kill Red and 6. Opponent is holding Cryptic, that is something worth noting. Play River of Tears, pass the turn. So right now, Force of Negation and Cryptic are my opponent's only 2 blue cards in hand. Okay, they fetch up a Breeding Pool tapped. They untap. They cycle Raugrin Triome. We really want to cast Thirst for Knowledge this turn if we can. Opponent plays a Forest, and it doesn't look like they're playing anything else. Alright, so attempt a Thirst for Knowledge. Discard Engineered Explosives. Untap. We draw Condescend. Play Power Plant. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 4. Play Expedition Map. Opponent is going to try Cryptic Commanding. So let's Condescend Cryptic Command, X2. Okay. Both of these to the bottom. Expedition Map resolves. Alright. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. We know they have Force of Negation, but we don't know anything else. So on their end step, crack Expedition Map, get an Urza's Tower. We untap, draw another Expedition Map, play Urza's Tower, go to combat, attack for 4, hit our opponent to 6, and then play Sundering Titan. The game is over. Nice. That felt really good. Alright, I will see you guys in round 4. Okay, round 4, here we go. Well, it's not the most amazing hand in the world, but you never know. Tormod's Crypt could probably pressure some random deck. Alright. Very suspicious. Arbor Elf. Alright. We draw a Walking Ballista, so we know what we're playing on turn 2. Play Field of Ruin, play Expedition Map, and cast Tormod's Crypt. Pass the turn. Hopefully they don't have Utopia Sprawl in addition. Okay, it would appear that they do not. We untap and draw an island. So play Walking Ballista X1. We are going to immediately cash it in to kill Arbor Elf. Pass the turn. I think in response to my opponent eating a creature out of the grave, we'll just Tormod's Crypt whoever they target. That's potentially bad if they have like the Infinite Persist combo or anything like that in their deck, but I think it's fine against an unknown opponent. This is probably Heliod Company. It could be Elves. Sometimes Elves main decks Scavenging Ooze, though it's not really that likely. Opponent shocks a Temple Garden. They're going to eat Walking Ballista. You know what? That's fine. I'm going to exile their grave. I don't want them like Renegade Rallying and getting back their Mana Dork or a fetch land or, you know, Eternal Witness. None of that nonsense. Opponent plays Prismatic Vista, attacks us for 3. We untap. We draw Prismatic Vista, so play Eldrazi Temple. And cast a Thought Knot Seer. Taking a peek at our opponent's hand here. Opponent cracks Prismatic Vista. Gets a basic forest. So they have Walking Ballista, Collected Company, and honestly, we're taking Collected Company. Alright, pass the turn. So my opponent is probably Heliod Company, almost certainly. I'm really glad we took out their Mana Dork and had the ability to Thoughtseize them. Opponent plays a Conclave Mentor, which is what they just drew, and then plays a Walking Ballista on 2. So we untap. We draw a Talisman of Dominance. Play... Let's see. Let's crack Expedition Map. We'll get a... That's a really suspicious noise. 1 second. Okay, so my plan is either to Engineered Explosives on 2 to take out Mentor and Ooze, or Engineered Explosives on 0, taking out Ballista now. I think the Engineered Explosives on 2 is a better play, so I'm just going to go for Urza lands. I guess I could also get Blast Zone, but that would be a lot slower. So we're just going to get an Urza's Mine, play an Urza's Mine, and play a Talisman of Dominance. Then we will pass the turn. Next turn we can play and activate Explosives on 2, so the only concern would be my opponent playing like Heliod. So they can probably play and cycle Horizon Canopy pretty safely right now, because they don't need the mana. They play an Arbor Elf, an attack for 3. Now I could block, but they would just kill Thought Knot Seer if I did, using Walking Ballista. So we take 3, we untap, we draw Thirst for Knowledge. So we have 5 mana, we can go up to 6. Porter had to come down here and start chewing on his toy. Yeah, I think the Engineered Explosives play is the best one here. So black-blue, Explosives on 2. I could activate Field and hit Temple Garden, though I don't think I'm going to. Then we will activate Explosives. I lose Talisman here because of this. Opponent is going to put a counter on Ballista, which is 2 counters, actually. They gain 2 life. Play Prismatic Vista, go to combat. Attack for 4. If they want to trade Ballista here, I'm fine with that. They'll probably just wait until next turn when they can use... they can put a counter on Ballista and then just ping it down. Dude. Chill. Slightly, please. Alright, Ballista is now on 5. They attack us for 6. Okay, we go down to 7. Yeah, maybe actually Explosives on 0 was the play. Opponent plays another Horizon Canopy. Crack Prismatic Vista, let's get an island. Opponent might use this opportunity to ping down Thought Knot Seer. I mean, there's nothing they're really playing around by doing that, but just doing it when we have the least amount of mana might make sense. Alright, we untap, draw Power Plant. Thirst for Knowledge. There's Tron. Discard Sundering Titan. Play Power Plant. Oh, we're just dead. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I needed to kill Ballista. I didn't do the math right. So versus my opponent's deck, I definitely want Aether Gust over a Remand. And I probably want the Dismembers over Remands. And... I think I'm going to drop Treasure Mage for a Spreading Seas. We're going to try it like this. Alrighty. Game 2. We're on the play. This should work. Kind of sucks that we weren't on the draw here, but we will start Urza's Tower Expedition Map. Pass the turn. If my opponent starts a Mana Dork, I will actually just repeal it on my turn. Okay, they start Utopia Sprawl. We get a Condescend. So now that I have Condescend, I can afford to be reactive. I don't have to be proactive. And this is not a Mana Dork, it's a Mana Enchantment. So. Okay, opponent shocks Temple Garden. They play Ranger Captain, which is a high enough value target to Condescend. Ooh. Power Plant on top, Spreading Seas on top of Power Plant. We're going to deprive our opponent of their Utopia Sprawl. This seems like fun. And we get to draw a Tron land that we don't have. Okay, Utopia Sprawl falls off. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. They play Spike Feeder. We untap and draw Thought Knot Seer. Alright, so search for Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine. Play Thought Knot Seer. They have Spike Feeder number 2 and an Arbor Elf. Take Spike Feeder. Pass the turn. So they will be able to reach infinite life, in theory, if they draw a Heliod. Okay, opponent top decked Collected Company, which is a really good top deck. They played Horizon Canopy. Let's see what they get. Hopefully not Heliod. That would be annoying, but not game over as far as I can tell. Ranger Captain and Skycleave Apparition. So they get to kill Thought Knot Seer. Tutor for what they want. Okay, opponent gets Walking Ballista. Exiles Thought Knot Seer. Attacks us for 2, sure. We untap. Draw Eldrazi Temple. I think we play River of Tears and pass. And just try and make the best interruption we can with Cyclonic Rift. Okay. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks for 7. We'll take 7. Go down to 11. They shock Temple Garden. They play Ballista, X2. And they play Arbor Elf. Okay. So then, on their end step, we're going to overload Cyclonic Rift. Put it all back in their hand. They'll ping us for 1 at least. Yep. We get a 4/4 Illusion. Then we get to untap. We draw Island. That's not good. Alright, so go to combat. Hit them for 4. Take them to 7. Repeal Spreading Seas. We gotta try and draw something. Condescend is good, though not actually what I'm looking for, I think. Spreading Seas, Horizon Canopy. We draw an Expedition map. Play Expedition map. Then play an Island. Pass the turn. So we have a 4-mana mana leak that scries right now. Opponent plays a Misty Rainforest. They crack Misty, go to 6. They play Arbor Elf, sure. They play Arbor Elf, also fine. They play Ranger Captain. This I will counter. Alright, opponent scoops. Well, that worked better than expected. So, run it back for game 3. I probably should cut the remand for the other Spreading Seas, but I like having 1. This hand doesn't do anything for a very long time. It's got some power behind it, but I think I've got a mulligan for something that does something a little bit sooner. This counts. Keep. Ugin wins the game if we ever actually get to do anything with him. This is a little bit suicidal, but I'm going to put back Field of Ruin, and hopefully we can get a good Condescend in here. Okay. Opponent starts Utopia Sprawl, so there's no reason for us to dismember turn 1. Play Island. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent plays Prismatic Vista and passes. We draw another Condescend. That can be good. Pass the turn. They fetch up a basic forest, and then pass. They play Horizon Canopy into an Arbor Elf. Sure. This might seem like an atrocious waste, but I am going to dismember Arbor Elf. It just represents so much mana right now. Opponent Veil of Summer. Ooh, do I dismember again? I think I'm gonna. Just spend 8 mana to kill an Arbor Elf. The only way this goes wrong is if they have a second Veil of Summer. Oh my god. Alright, yeah, no, I'll just pay... I'll mind rot myself and lose 8 life. I don't need it. It's a crutch. So Condescend is now completely worthless. Play Walking Ballista. Yeah, I should have kept that Field of Ruin and put back Ugin. Ugin was a complete pipe dream. Kill Arbor Elf, because I don't want my opponent to untap with 6 mana. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent collected company. Getting Heliod, Ranger Captain, and getting a Walking Ballista. Yep. That's game. Alright, I kept a really bad keep and my opponent had double Veil. And we didn't draw land, so I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright. Round 5, here we go. I would like to play first. It's a bit slow, but, I mean, if we top deck the last Tron land, it's great. You know, if we top deck countermagic, we could start playing a different line. Players is mine, pass the turn. Opponent starts Blackcleave Cliffs. Inquisitions. They take Thirst for Knowledge. They know we're on Blue Tron now. So my opponent could be playing Jund, they could be playing Death Shadow. Play Power Plant, pass the turn. We may end up transmuting for Tower. Oh my god, it's Smallpox. Unbelievable. So discard Gemstone Caverns, sack Power Plant. Well, Smallpox I did theorize was going to be good versus the new metagame. But they are in the 1 in 3 bracket like we are, so maybe it's not so good. So next turn we still get to play a Thought Knot Seer unless we get hit with another Smallpox or a Thoughtseize. There's the Thoughtseize. So there goes Thought Knot Seer. We untap. We draw Urza's Tower. So transmute. Let's get a Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Blackcleave Cliffs. Shrieking Affliction. Can we untap and draw Expedition Map? So play Urza's Tower. Play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. We're going to try and end up with 2 cards in hand so that Shrieking Affliction doesn't proc on our turn. We're going to fetch up Talaria West. Okay, we untap. We draw Blast Zone. So if my opponent has a Kolaghan's Command, they may have wanted to make us discard on our draw step and like destroy Talisman so we couldn't transmute. Play Prismatic Vista. Crack Prismatic Vista. Get an island. Transmute Talaria West. If I knew more about my opponent's deck, I may want to... Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to Chalice of the Void on 2. Because then they can't play, presumably, their finisher, which is going to be Kroxa. Otherwise, I can take Walking Ballista and then almost certainly run it into removal. The problem is we have a lot of 2-drops. I still think it's worth doing. They do have Kolaghan's Command, so it's not like the end-all be-all, but in theory it does something. Okay. We get Afflicted. We draw a tower. Pass the turn. No need to play anything yet. Opponent cracks Polluted Delta. Finds a Blood Crypt tapped. They untap. They play a Blood Crypt tapped. We untap. Draw Karn, Great Creator. What is our best bet versus our opponent's deck? If I'm wishing for anything, it's probably Wormcoil Engine. I expect Karn will bite the dust very shortly, but... Get Wormcoil. Play Wormcoil. I could have gotten Sundering Titan, but my opponent has enough lands that Sundering Titan's probably not going to do enough. It would actually probably hurt us more than it hurts them. Okay, opponent plays Liliana. Makes us sack. We lose Wormcoil, get the tokens. Untap. Draw Power Plant. Wish. Get Walking Ballista. Play Tower. Play a massive Walking Ballista. Okay. Opponent scoops it up. So versus Pox, Rack, whatever, I think we're bringing in Spreading Seas over Remand. And I may even put a relic in the main deck here over Remand. That seems like it's actually going to do something. We could play another Chalice of the Void as well, but I don't think that's super necessary. We have a lot of lands, but our hand isn't very good versus our opponent's deck. I think I'm still going to try keeping this, and we're going to try and rely on top decking well. I'm going to start with our non-blue land, because I don't want our blue land getting smallpoxed and then being just, you know, off of everything forever. Players is mine. I probably actually should have started Field of Ruin, but if this forces a fast smallpox from my opponent, and they just don't have a great follow-up, just thinking that they're going to disrupt us solely through making us sack our only land, maybe that's good. Okay, we draw a relic, play an island, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a swamp. If it's a Liliana, I'm condescending. It's an Ashiok, I'm condescending. Okay, Thirst for Knowledge, Power Plant. I'm gonna put these both on top. Okay, we untap, draw Thirst for Knowledge. Play Urza's Tower, pass, leaving up Remand, Thirst for Knowledge. We're getting Thought Seized. I think that means I thirst, actually. So we draw Power Plant, 2 unknowns, and we'll discard Relic. Now my opponent has to take Karn Great Creator. Okay. If they have Surgical, this sucks, but there's not a whole lot I can do. Maybe I should have just let them take Thirst. But it feels like if we don't draw extra cards in this matchup somehow, we're really in a bad place. I guess we'll assemble Tron. Play Expedition Map. Crack it. And I think I just want an untapped island. Pass the turn. So if my opponent casts Smallpox, we'll Remand it, unless they play a 4th land first. At which point, if they Smallpox, we'll Remand it, they'll cast it again, we'll sack Tower, and then play Tower, and have access to it again. Okay, so they fetch up a mountain. They play Rabble Master. That is worth remanding. Hopefully they don't follow this up with a hand hate spell if we draw a non-land card. Okay, we untap, draw Tormod's Crypt, play Blast Zone, cast Tormod's Crypt, pass the turn, opponent untaps, they play a Polluted Delta, they play Rabble, crack Polluted Delta for a swamp. They go to combat, make a token, attack us for 1. So we take 1 and go to 19. Put 2 counters on Blast Zone. We untap. We draw Repeal. I'm going to start by sacrificing Blast Zone on our turn, just because I don't want to forget later. Repeal the Goblin. Get another Power Plant. I guess we'll field just to fetch another island out of our deck. Opponent didn't float mana, so they probably don't have any tricks. Okay. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Bloodstained Mire. Cracks Bloodstained Mire. For a Blood Crypt. Plays Lightning Skelemental. Well, there's nothing we can really do about that. So they're going to hit us for 6. We got to discard 2 cards, so it's probably going to be Gemstone Caverns and Eldrazi Temple. Okay, they sack the Skelemental. We untap. Draw Talaria West. Play Urza's Tower. Transmute Talaria West. For Walking Ballista. Play at X4. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps and draws. Plays a land. So we took Walking Ballista instead of like Chalice because it was the most likely thing that was going to impact the board or force our opponent to do something. Okay, so we're getting Smallpox here. So we're going to ping our opponent 4 times. It is unlikely that we will need double blue, so I think we're going to sack an island and then dump an island. Whereas, like, if we have the power plant available, we might be able to play something much larger. I'm interested to see what my opponent discards. So we discard an island. Opponent discards a Dreadbore. And we sack an island, they sack a Bloodstain Mire. Then they play Davriel, so they can force us to discard. Okay. So, discard Power Plant. We are not going to sack Tormod's Crypt, because if we draw Repeal, we could bounce it to potentially do something else. Okay, we get a Thought Knot Seer. Thought Knot Seer is nice. Doesn't do anything as far as our opponent's concerned, but it does make for a better attacker. Puts them on a 2-turn clock. We're on a 5-turn clock at the moment. Opponent untaps. They draw. They drew a spell. Blood Moon. Okay, we don't particularly care about Blood Moon. It does stop us from playing our, like, toppest of top-end cards, but we take 2, go to 8, draw a Power Plant, play a Power Plant, go to combat, hit our opponent for 4. Basically, as long as our opponent does not draw Skelemental, we should survive. Unless they have another Smallpox or heavy removal spell that can hit Thought Knot. There's a few things we could lose to here, I suppose. But they gotta have it right now. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. So I'm gonna exile my opponent's grave just to be safe. We're gonna lose 3 life, discard a card that doesn't exist, and then my opponent will not be able to replay Kroxa because they don't have enough mana or enough cards in grave. Then we attack them for 4 and they die. We go down to 3. Nice. So we end up getting our 50 play points. Honestly, I think Blue Tron's in a fine position in the metagame right now. Just I know we only went 2 and 3, but several of those matchups felt winnable. Some of what I did, some of what happened there was a little bit questionable in terms of, you know, what did I keep versus what happened. I think I'm a little bit rusty on playing Blue Tron, and I think this is in a really good position in this particular metagame simply because there's not as much broken stuff happening on turns 0 to 3, where before, I used to describe Blue Tron as a tempo deck. And the reason that I call it a tempo deck and not a control deck is because all you're trying to do is stay ahead on mana or keep your opponent behind using your counter spells while you're drawing cards, you're getting to where you need to go. Then you assemble Tron, you drop a huge threat, you have protection, and then your opponent's way far behind that, and then you kill them. So you got to kind of play it like a tempo deck, and you have to delay your opponent instead of advancing your board by doing something broken early. And I think that really Blue Tron's in a good position right now because a lot of opponents that we're playing against, except for the ones like Burn or decks that are trying to play like multiple hand hate spells early, most decks we're running into are casting something relatively large every turn. And if they're not, they're, you know, if they're like the 4-color Omnath deck, or they're playing a control deck, like, we can just kind of wait them out because we have counter spells too. And then we will assemble more mana. You know, their mana leak style permissions aren't going to affect us as much. We can disable some of their hate with Thought Knot Seer, etc. And it feels good. It feels strong. I think with more practice, I would have done a lot better. I definitely made some punts this league. And I think if you like Blue Tron, now's the time to play Blue Tron. Really, I think so. Now, the meta could shake out. It could become very hostile to Blue Tron, but right at this exact moment, the time that you're watching this video, if you have the cards for Blue Tron, you like playing Blue Tron, I'd play Blue Tron. I don't think I'd really make any adjustments to this list. I might put in something for just a little more game versus burn. Like I might have another spatial contortion instead of a dismember, or maybe drop a spreading seas for a spatial contortion. Maybe 2 worm coils in the main is correct instead of just 1. I've not been a huge fan of Walking Ballista in most forms of Tron. I think in this form of Tron it is better. Treasure Mage does not have a lot of targets because we're not playing Mindslaver. We're only playing Wormcoil and Sundering Titan, and we can only fetch those 2 cards out of it. I think I would drop Treasure Mage, either run a 4th Karn Great Creator or a 2nd Wormcoil engine in the main. I think that would be very strong. The single Snapcaster is a little bit awkward because most of the time we didn't really have either the mana, as in the multiple blue, to cast what we could Snapcaster back, or we didn't have a spell in the grave to have something to Snapcaster back. So I think Snapcaster would be better off as a 3rd Talisman, or one of the aforementioned slot changes in the main deck, just to kind of homogenize. I know that Bluetron tends to run singletons of the threats that it likes playing the most, because it does play tutors, it does draw through the deck quickly, so it can find what it needs, and it's kind of a little bit of a Swiss Army knife top end, where you usually have a tool that can win, though you're not guaranteed to draw it, but because you're drawing extra cards, it's more likely that you do. Yeah, I think dropping a Snapcaster Mage for one of the aforementioned slots, or even playing a 4th Thought Knot Seer might be right. And Walking Ballista, I don't know if I finished my thought on Walking Ballista before kind of rambling on. Walking Ballista in Bluetron is a little bit more fair, simply because you can transmute for it. You can, like, you might happen to have multiple sets of Tron, and then Walking Ballista just becomes this huge fireball. So, yeah, I think all in all, that's all I have to say. So, if you like Bluetron, definitely play Bluetron right now. If you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. I'm sorry that the stream this week was so short. I was so exhausted. I like just did not sleep the night before. So I promise the next stream will be longer than that one. The stream VOD for that should be going up after this video, so probably about the time that you're watching this segment of the video, the stream VOD for the stream has gone up. And if you want to, have more direct interaction with me than the YouTube comments or through Twitch, you can also join the Discord in the link below. It's a pretty sweet group of people. We're all kind of misfits, and we have a lot of fun, brew a lot of decks, and if that sounds like the kind of thing you're interested in, you like interacting with the Twitch, you like seeing the Twitch chat and the Twitch VODs if you don't interact with me on Twitch, it's kind of like that every day of the week. So, yeah. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! You're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching.